Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to the March 10 meeting of the City of Oklahoma City Planning Commission. I'd like to speak to us today. We'd like to welcome you to the meeting, but again, we'd direct your attention to the instructions for speaking to the commission, which are on the inside page of our agenda. If you'd like to speak to us, we'd ask that you fill out a speaker form, which are available on the front desk outside the meeting. Turn those into Lance or our clerk, and they'll get those to us, and we will call you when the case that you're here to address us on comes up. As you might note, we have a short panel today. There are just some absences, so we have 5 commissioners. So if your matter has a variance in it, we will not have sufficient votes to approve the variance. So if you have a variance, you might address us when we talked about continuances, and we'll see if we can get you on the next available docket. So that said, JJ, you want to move ahead? Yeah, we have 2 sets of minutes to approve for the February 11, 2016 meeting, and then the February 25, 2016 meeting. And I don't believe that we're going to have enough.
There's not enough for either one.
I don't think we have the right folks here to approve either one.
Both. Yeah.
So we'll defer those to the next meeting. We need a motion to do that. Okay. Motion second to defer. We'll defer those to the March 24 meeting. All right. Continuances requests.
Got 4 today. Item 12, PC 10-440, defer to March 24th. Item 13, PC 10-442, defer to March 24th. Item 14, C6802, defer to April 28th. And item 15, PC 10-443, request withdrawal.
Is there anybody here today to speak to us on items 12, 13, 14, or 15? Commissioners?
Move approval of the uncontested request.
All right, motion and a second to approve these requests. Cast your votes. Oh. There we go. All right, those are approved. Yep. Okay. Any new requests? Oh, Mr. Work.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Kelly Work. My address is 105 North Hudson, and I'm here on item number 1, which is a lot split application, but it does involve a variance request, so we would ask that that be continued to the next meeting. We'll hope that we'll have at least enough to consider that at that time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Move approval.
We want to take these, can we do them all at once? Do it separately. Okay. Motion and a second to continue item 1 till March 24th. Cast your votes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is continued. Any other continuances? Mark?
Mark Grubbs, on behalf of the applicant on number 3, which also requires a variance, we'd ask to be heard at the next hearing.
Okay, commissioners, anybody present to speak to us on item number 3? Move continuance.
Second.
Motion is second to continue item number 3. Cast your votes. That matter is continued to March 24th. Any additional requests for continuance? Okay, thank you.
So we don't have enough people to vote on a variance period, is that right? So are there not any other cases that have variance requests? Okay.
Okay, first item for public hearing is item 2, C6803, final plat of Rapid Wash, located south of Southwest 89th Street and west of South May Avenue.
Mr. Allen?
Charles Allen with Hale Surveying, simple 3-lot subdivision at 89th and May. The east lot is going to be sold to the 7-Eleven to allow them for expansion. The center lot will be submitting for permitting for a Rapid Wash car wash, and then the west lot we have no plans for right now. This is really required because the deed approvals to create this lot kind of didn't allow us to do any more deed approvals, so we're here with the plat.
Commissioners, nobody signed up to speak on this matter.
Motion to approve.
Motion is second to approve item 2. Cast your votes. It's approved.
Thank you.
Item 3 was deferred, and item 4 is PUD 1605, application by Diversified Oil and Gas to rezone 9126 South May Avenue.
Good afternoon, Tim Johnson, with Johnson Associates here on behalf of the applicant. We were before this group a few weeks back requesting rezoning of this tract to office and residential. It is currently zoned commercial. And after we got that done, before it went to council, we asked the staff to redirect it back here because our landowners had done some marketing with their builders and felt like that they needed to do duplexes as opposed to single-family detached because of their proximity to the rest of the commercial in that area. The builders felt like they could market that better. So we are back before you, the Planning Commission, to talk about this. So this is what the property is currently zoned. It's the only thing that's not permitted in this C3 zoning today is car sales. It has a little tiny strip of R1 here that really can't be used. It's about 100 feet wide. So we are proposing R2 in yellow and O2, restricted O2 in the blue, and that would be for like a neighborhood office development at the front. And as you can see on the layout that shows up on that, and also here, this is a preliminary layout that we would do as a plat. We're adjacent to South Lake Estates on our east side. We would have a street paralleling them. This would be the office development, and the street would exit out on May and allow for duplex lots to be built in here, completely disconnected from any other single-family detached. So this is the plan. This will be the preliminary plat that comes forward should this zoning get approved. There was a concerned citizen that wrote a letter to the city, and I did contact Mr. Williams. I don't know if he's here today, but we spoke on the phone briefly yesterday. He had a concern about the strip of no man's land between the street and the back of their properties, and I told him that we would, although it doesn't say that in the PUD now, it will be required as part of the plat that it's a mandatory property owners association. I told him that I would agree to include that in the PUD so that it double checks getting it back on the plat, and staff normally requires that anyway. And that strip of land would be maintained as with other common areas in the plat by the homeowners association once it's established. So we feel like this is a good down zone infill use adjacent to single-family detached houses that have grown from south to north over the last 10, 12 years or longer. Some of the properties to the east were developed much longer than that, but this is really the kind of the last piece of undeveloped land down there. There are a couple of technical evaluations. We agree with all the staff's comments, all three of the technical evaluations, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Chairman, I have
Yes, there'll be covenants and restrictions required, which the city doesn't have jurisdiction over. But by us putting the language in the PUD of a mandatory property owners association, I'll include in that what the duties would cover. Right. Right. And yeah, probably in the last 6, 7 years, we've done a lot better job with putting notes on plats and making sure that that's followed through by developers. But with us adding that language to the PUD, that gives us the neighbors a double insurance.
Any additional questions, Commissioners? Anybody here to speak to us on item number 4? Would you like to speak? Well, we'll let you talk anyway. Come on up, wait till you get to the microphone. Could you do...
I'm Mr. Stewart, and I actually wrote the letter to the commission.
Okay.
And if they're going to put it in there that there's a mandatory association that's going to be taking care of that strip, then I think we're all right with it. I still am confused on exactly, I know that when we, in our area, South Lake, when we call in about high weeds and stuff like that, the city wants to know who owns the property. And it's my understanding that this property actually will belong to the city, although he's saying that the homeowners association will be responsible for it, and if that's the way it works, that's fine. But I don't see that when I go looking at the county records. I see where property is identified as either owned by the homeowners association or it's not. It's owned by the homeowner, it's owned by the homeowners association. I know we're in my addition, which is South Lake, we have common areas on 89th Street, we have common areas on May Avenue, but they are not owned by the association. They're actually owned by the homeowners that abut that property. Because we're not mandatory, so we have no property, we don't own anything, and if the homeowners pay in, then, we take care of it. If they'll take care of that, that's fine. But there is a sewer line along there and everything. And we're also concerned about the fact that we have very low water pressure out there. We've complained to the city more than once, and now we're going to add, I don't know, more than 25, 50 more houses to that area. And, we're, in the mornings, it's pretty low. We've been told they're going to put pumps in. We have not seen any improvement in our water pressure since I moved into that area. We've had the city out more than once. So in that respect, we have some problems. We would have preferred that he stay R1 because we think it would basically protect our housing values. Everybody around us, we're all single family. Well, all of a sudden now, duplexes, they're wanting duplexes to go in, and everybody I've asked basically would like it to remain R1. But we understand it needs to be developed. We really want it to be developed for something because we're tired of fighting to get the weeds mowed. So, but that's, I wrote a letter and, it's there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming down. Any questions?
I do. I have a question to
Bob?
Tim.
Mr. Stewart? For Tim, I'm sorry.
Your map there, the one that says, okay, that side, and then this is, the right side is what you're proposing.
That's right.
Over here. In the application, the summary of your PUD, it says that, that you're going to be under C3.
Oh, you mean the base zoning under the PUD? I thought we had R2.
Am I missing something?
O2.
Because if that's going to be O2 and R2, then the summary of the PUD application says Track 1, the use and development regulations of the C3 Community Commercial District shall govern. Look at the very second page, page 2.
Yep.
That's true. That's for that office track. We can change that to O2 and maintain the same restrictions. It's virtually a local or a residential style office.
Well, but here's my question. Can you, under O2, have fast food restaurants, et cetera, like you have in the permitted uses? That's the same page.
8.1.1.
Yes, he can have those uses.
And those same uses?
Yes.
If it's O2?
Yes.
Okay, well, then that should be modified. Then, Tim,
I would agree we'll modify the C3
Okay.
to O2.
And my other comment is that on the page 15, last page, other considerations, that the proposed PUD, you're down zoning to O2 and R2, and that allowed the PUD 234 allowed for Lord knows what to be put into that particular place. And I think what you're proposing is much, much, much better than what 234 allowed, and the same number of units. So based upon that, if there's no other comments, I move approval of your application.
So we're approving, modifying, are we going to add a TE to include, or that strip?
Yes, that will include language to require a mandatory properties association.
Yeah.
And we'll identify in that language what their requirements will be.
Okay, that's good. And then additionally, modifying 8.1 to reflect the use and development regulations of O2 shall govern the PUD.
Yes, sir.
So far as tract 1
Tract one.
is concerned. Okay. Second? Motion and a second to approve item number 4 as modified. Cast your votes.
Thank you.
That's approved. Thank you, Tim.
Item 5, SPUD 884.
Timing on the process of changing the PUD?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Pat.
What is the timing on the process of revising the PUD?
It would be revised between now and council. It takes about 6 weeks between planning commission and city council.
Thank you.
There's plenty of time. Item 5 is SPUD 884, application by Mark McKee to rezone 2129 and 2135 Southeast 44th Street.
Would you come up, please?
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Mark McKee, we had downgraded last month, per you, Mr. Wright, and instead of going to R1, I1 to I2 to the SPUD 884, which I believe you have information on for approval of that.
My comments are I appreciate the work that he did to come back in with an SPUD, sign limitations, et cetera. And with that, I move approval of your application.
Any questions, commissioners? Nobody signed up. Okay. Motion second.
Good work.
Thank you. I had one question I'd like to ask about is with sanitary sewer not yet being there, making sure that the buyers would not have to put that in unless there is a new construction. Is that correct on a situation like that? No.
I'll have to ask somebody other than us.
Nathan Manuel, Utilities Department. We had made the comment based on the subdivision regs that if you're within 1/2 mile of a sanitary sewer line that is accessible, that you would have to extend to serve the property per the subdivision regs. So
I think his question is, do they have to do that before any permits are pulled, or is it something that will just be triggered by the process of construction?
we won't require it retroactive to the existing structure. So as long as what they have there meets DEQ's code and it's existing, we won't require an extension.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. Motion, we do have a motion and a second to approve. Oh, we voted? No, we need to vote. All right. Motion and a second to approve item 5. Cast your votes. That's approved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item 6 is SP 848 to operate an automobile dealership in the C3 district located at 500 West Britton Road.
Would you tell us your name
Erfan Ferdozian.
and tell us about your application, sir?
Well, I'm applying to do a car dealership there. It's currently a car wash, and to my understanding, it was a car dealership before it was the car wash, but that was many years ago, and that's basically it. There's an auto repair next to it. It's actually owned by this gentleman, Mark, and I haven't purchased it yet, but I'm applying for a special permit to try and purchase it, make it into a car dealership, used car dealership.
Janice?
I have very mixed feelings about this. If you go drive this strip of road, it seems to me in the process of upgrading, there have been some serious improvements to some of the properties along the street, including that horrifying apartment complex that's directly across to the north. It was there for so long and was in such bad condition. Now it's been just drastically upgraded. But also, even on the south side of Britain, there just have been some real significant improvements. Having said that, there are still some properties along there that are real horror stories. I don't necessarily have a problem with this use. I'm a little uncomfortable doing it as a special permit rather than as an SPUD, because I would like to see some controls that, we might have to sit down and actually negotiate. And of course, there's only, a handful of us here today, which makes it a little bit problematic as well. I would really like to see this matter continued so I can sit down with the applicant so we can, detail, what needs to be done to control the development of this property. There's a car dealership just about a block and a half to the west that's got the, 10-foot chain link fences and cars stacked on top of each other. And, I don't want this to become that. And I would really like to either see it brought in as an SPUD or have the time to sit down and really think through what kind of controls we can put in place through this process in order to make sure that doesn't happen.
That's similar, Janice, to what the previous applicant did. Came in with straight zoning, and we said, wait, that's going to be there forever, and we've come back in with an SPUD, and he did, that has controls over that particular property. I think that's what you're getting at, is this is like too visible, potentially, for just go ahead and do what you want to do.
And very much so in this area that is in transition in the right direction.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I would agree with both of you. And additionally, I'm not clear how the applicant has addressed section 6 with respect to the requirements for us to approve a special permit, and those are some of the things that you mentioned, Janice, because again, we're hard up against a residential area back to the south. Lighting, noise, et cetera. I think, no offense to car lots, but I think those are obtrusive uses next to residential areas, and I think they could be a real problem. We've seen that before. So, sir, I don't think, given the 5 people that you've got up here in front of you today, that you're going to get this through. In fact, I would suggest that you might want to think about your application, do a little work on it, and come back to us with a little more fulsome application that addresses some of the concerns that Commissioner Powers has expressed and Commissioner Bright have expressed with respect to lighting and some other things. I personally would prefer this as an SPUD so that we had those controls, but
you can add conditions to the special permit.
That's true. We could do that, do it that way. But I think you're going to have to specifically address those. That might be a better way to go, actually.
Question then, if it's a special permit with those things, it would be in an SPUD. If you sell the piece of property, doesn't that go away?
No, it's just like any other zone.
So it stays with the property. Okay, well then I think a special permit.
Special permit's fine. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying we do a SPUD, but I think you're going to have to address those things about lighting, height of light, and Janice she and I have had this conversation several times. Yeah. So, how long do you think it's going to take?
I'll be happy to make myself available to work with the applicant. Maybe his timeline should govern. 2 weeks is fine with me. If a month works better for you, that's fine too.
Okay. Okay, that's something we can address later, I guess.
Well, you're going to have to.
I can address.
When do you want it to? What's your suggested time to maybe revise your application for your permit, et cetera. How long does he need, JJ? 2 weeks?
As soon as possible.
As soon as possible? All right, that's going to be on you, because if it's not ready when it comes back, we're going to
Hopefully she can help me.
give you the heads up, okay? All right, so we'll continuous for 2 weeks. That would be to the March 24th meeting.
So move.
Okay, motion and a second to continue item 6 to March 24. Cast your votes. Let's continue. Thank you.
Item 7 is ABC 849, application by Southwestern Wings LLC for an ABC 1 located at 3905 Southwestern Avenue.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tommy Hicks. I'm here to ask for a change of overlay from a C3 to an ABC1 in Ward 6, Mr. Bright's area there. I own the Wingstop there. I'm building it. We're going to open it on April 1st. And I'm looking to change that overlay so I'll have permission to sell Low Point beer. And the only reason is because the franchise makes us. So, so it is what it is.
Okay.
I have no objections. Move approval.
I have a comment about not this particular application especially, but we're sort of in the process of trying to come up with a better way to deal with ABC.
Yeah.
One of the things that kind of stuck out to me about this application is that it is, property that's being leased. And since we're doing this to run with the land forever, right? Even though it is on a leased property, I wonder if there is any distinction that is or can be or should, or whether we might want to even think about it when we're going through this process on ABCs. As we're making those amendments and trying to come up with a better way to deal with them, is there any distinction to be made or that should be made or even that can be made between property where, it's an applicant that is an owner and an applicant that is a lessor?
The application shouldn't be, or the consideration of the application really shouldn't be based on the owner. They could sell, that's true of any of the property. You can sell it, and the property, the zoning goes with the land.
Well, that's true.
If it's leased, the ABC still goes with the land?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
This doesn't have anything to do with your application.
Yeah, I'm just listening. I'm learning.
Discussing some policy considerations. Why don't we vote on Mr. Hicks' application?
We're sorry.
Motion, that's all right. Motion and a second to approve item number 7. Cast your votes.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's approved. Thank you.
Okay, item 8, C6797, preliminary plat of Silverleaf West, located north of Southwest 59th and west of County Line Road.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Chris Anderson with SMC Consulting Engineers representing the developer. Read the staff report and agree with the TEs and just request approval of the plat this afternoon.
Commissioners, nobody's signed up.
I have another one of those things I wanted to ask about. On more than one of these today that we were looking at, where we're talking about the level of service efficiency, this is an area, I'll just say now I don't have a problem with this application, that is an urban low intensity, and part of the terminology explanation of that is that it's the least intensively developed areas of the city that still receive urban water, sewer, police, park, and fire services. So urban services. But here, we're talking about sewer and water that are, it says fully or currently served. Specifically with respect to fire, it says rural service level. Does that give us any sort of additional level of concern that we ought to be looking at in terms of things that are appropriate for the plat in terms of design and that kind of thing? Should that deviation from urban service raise any additional concern in our minds as we're looking at these?
I think it could if you're looking at brand-new applications. This has already been preliminary platted in this configuration. It's coming back to you to look at just because The south end of it was sold to the school and developed with a grade school.
Right.
But I do think you could and should if it's a brand-new application.
And again, we're going to a procedure where we're going to try to do all of this at preliminary plat stage, so when things come back to us as final plats, they're almost always, consent docket items. So, like I said, I don't have any particular problem at all with this one, but I did have that question in my mind as I was looking at these today.
At least for me, I probably would take some further understanding of exactly what the difference in the service level actually means. I mean, I'm sure there is a difference that's fairly objectively measured, but to be honest, I frankly don't know the difference at this time. No, to an extent, but I think we have to be mindful if we're increasing density in an area that doesn't have adequate services to it, that we should consider that. That's just a consideration. If the service level is not dramatic change, that's something for us to weigh. That's kind of in the balance in my view. But if it's a significant step up, then I think we got to consider it. But that being said, any further comments on that applicant's matter?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve item number 8. Cast your votes. That item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 9, C6801, preliminary plat of Saban Gardens, located south of Northwest 23rd Street and west of North Sarah Road.
Good afternoon. Kendall Dillon with Crafts and Toll, representing the applicant. And this is obviously an application for a preliminary plat. There's 83 lots on about 28 acres, yields about 2.9 dwelling units per acre, so pretty low density. I think there are 9 TEs. We're in agreement with all 9. If you look on TE number 3, originally we submitted a plat, and this is the revised plat that you see up on the screen, but originally we did not have a street stub to the south, but since then obviously we've agreed to provide that, therefore we do not need the variance on TE number 3. So with that, we're in agreement with the TEs and would ask for your approval.
Is the frontage road, is that two-way or is it one-way?
That's the actual turnpike. It's not a frontage road.
Oh, okay.
Are there sidewalks internally along each property line? I mean,
interior to the plat?
Yeah.
Interior to the plat will have sidewalks.
There's sidewalks. I didn't see that. I mean, I just want to make sure that you've got sidewalks in front of the houses.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Interior, there will be sidewalks.
Okay.
Nobody signed up? Anybody want to make a motion on this?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Eliminating TE number 3?
Correct. Okay, motion is second to approve item number 9, deleting TE number 3. Cast your votes.
Thank
That's
you.
approved. Thank you, Kendall.
Item 10, C6798, preliminary plat of Fieldstone, Section 5, located south of Southwest 44th and east of South County Line Road.
Again, Tim Johnson, on behalf of the applicant. This is a preliminary plat for a zoning case that we did, another duplex application on a piece of property that had a little bit of commercial and a little bit of undevelopable R1. So we've separated it from the rest of the single-family detached, created its own street off of 44th Street. This plat complies with the SPUD, and there are 3 TEs. We agree with all of them.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson, Commissioners? Nobody signed up on this.
Move approval.
Motion is second to approve item 10. Cast your votes.
Thank you.
That's approved. Thank you.
Item 11 is public hearing on an ordinance relating to decorative entryways on rural estate driveways. This ordinance was requested by Councilman White. He had a couple of different constituents that wanted to permit these type of entryways over their driveway, and we really couldn't find any way in the ordinance to get that done, although there are a lot of them out there that exist. This will allow us to issue permits for those and establish some criteria for the size and height, and it also allows us to make sure that they're built safely and properly and anchored to the ground correctly.
My only comment is, I don't oppose it, but I can just imagine what somebody is going to do way different than what these pictures are.
Yeah. Well, we may see some architecture, there's no doubt about it. But at least we'll give a look, right? Somebody will.
Anyway, I move approval of the ordinance.
The question I had, a couple of the pictures that have been provided in conjunction with the application show actual gates across the entries. But it seems to me that the language that we're talking about adding does not address those gates. It's really just the arches and 14 feet above.
We already have a code to address the pillars and the entryways and columns and that sort of thing. We just didn't have anything in the ordinance that addressed this arch over the span over the driveway.
So the gates are, you can't put one of those across a public street, obviously.
Just a driveway.
Okay.
Private driveway.
Okay.
Second? Anybody? All right. Motion and a second to approve item number 12. Cast your votes on that. That's approved. It's all the public hearing matters today. All right. Any additional matters? Planning Commission committees? Planning Commission members? Planning Department? Development Service? Municipal Counselor? No citizens to be heard. Any other business before the Commission? Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned.